Hello, hello. Hi. We're back. We're busy. I know you're so excited, right? I know you are. I am. Know you're hyped. It's Tuesday. Today, like every other day, crazy. Crazy. Doing all the things. Yeah, doing all the things, all the stuffs and the things. So today is Pleasure Tools Tuesday. What is Pleasure Tools Tuesday? Pleasure Tools Tuesday is our class dedicated to external tools you can use to spice up your sex life. It is exactly what our Tuesdays are for. It's all the things that you can bring into the bedroom to, help stink it up. If you know what I mean. If you know what I mean, okay? And I know that many people feel a certain type of way about bringing in other outside tools into the bedroom to help with their sex or to aid in sexual gratification, but I'm here to tell you that that is absolutely normal. We are humans and humans use tools. Okay, that is what separates us from animals, is that we use tools. Okay, we have big brains and we can use tools. So it's important that we are leaving that part open for our sex lives as well, and inviting outside and external stimuli to help us have better sexual experiences. And today, specifically, we're going to be talking about sexting. Now, why would we be talking about sexting, right? You just get on the phone and you do blah, blah. No. No, actually. Sexting is an art form. And if you don't know how to do it, you can definitely mess it up. You can mess up your opportunity and, run off or get left on red because you're doing too much. Okay? And so it is. I know you think you're just supposed to get on there and start talking, but no, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Okay? So we're going to get you set up to have the perfect sexting experience. I actually built this class, this is 2025. I built it, I believe, in hold on, I'll be able to tell you because I'm actually in I want to say 2023. Might have been 2022. No, it was 2023. Actually, it was September 6th, 2023. I built this class because someone called me who had just gotten into this. They were a little bit older, someone I went to school with, went to college with, and she had no idea how to do this. This was something that her partner was really into, but she didn't know what to do. She was like, I know you think that I should, but I don't know how to do this. So we had to go through, what's the do's and don'ts, and how do we do this safely, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to be doing today, okay? We're going to be talking about sexting and how to make sure that you're doing it correctly and that you are not, messing up the mood, messing up the vibe, and, doing too much. We want you to be successful at the things that you try, and we need to make sure that we are doing them in a way that honors, why we're here, right? So, and again, if you've ever sexted before, you know how easy it is to mess up. You are very aware about how you can mess it up, okay? So, and this is not something that's just for single people. This is not, if you are in any type of relationship or are planning on having a relationship with someone else, there are going to be moments when you two are not going to be near each other, right? That's just the way life happens. You go on a business trip, you go visit your grandma, you go do this, that, and you still want to create that sense of connection even though y'all are not in the same place. And so one of the easiest ways to do that is to just have a little, kinky conversation. So let's get into it so we can get, hey, I want y'all to tell me how it go after you get it together, because I'm excited for you to experience what that's like. Okay, let's move this where it's supposed to be. And then we're going to hide you because it's not your day. What day is it? It's Tuesday. That is the one for Monday. Do I not have the logo for Tuesday here? Hold on, let's add it. This don't have nothing to do with nothing, okay? I'm just in here touching stuff because I can. So let's add an image, and I was pretty sure it was in here. Hold on, let me look at my stuff. What's that one? Nope. What's this one? Nope, that's not it. There we go. All right, we got our logo for Tuesday, being big for no unnecessary reason. So, Pleasure Tools Tuesday, of course, is for adults only. You must be 18 or older to view. If you are not 18 or older, I am going to suggest that you find a more age-appropriate sex education for you. This will not be it, unfortunately. I don't necessarily teach children, so oh, I'm in here touching all kind of stuff and messing stuff up. My bad, y'all. Okay, okay. All right, all right. So sexting, what is it? What are we doing? What are we talking about? What's the purpose of this conversation? After today's class, you are going to be able to identify the sexting flow. You're going to be able to address how to read the room and to keep boundaries. You're going to practice respectful ways to connect and list two or more things you should not do during sexting. Okay? What you should not do, right? We want to make, hey, listen. We're trying to make memories, okay? Not enemies. Okay. So what is sexting? Sexting is actually a form of sex, just like all the other forms of sex, just like cyber sex, just like I can't say that because that's probably going to get me deleted. Just like hands sex, okay? I hope you know where I'm going. But it's just a form of sex. And we have built the definition of sex around PIV. We call it PIV, which is penis in vagina. But there are plenty of people who engage in sexual activity that does not include a penis and or a vagina, right? Two people with two penises can engage in sexual activity. People with two vaginas can participate in sexual activity. People who are not even near each other can participate in sexual activity. Before sexting existed, before we was doing sex, they had 1-900 lines, right? So you could call and you could talk on the phone with somebody and they'll talk sexy back to you. Remember on CV4, he's like, yeah, I'm licking your balls. You got big balls. So even before sexting existed, communication has been a form of sexual activity. And why does that exist, right? Because we're people and we don't always need to connect physically to be able to connect. So sexting is a way that you can build intimacy between two people, especially if you are already in a relationship. So you are injecting sexual energy into your already existing relationship, but it's also a way for you to learn about your partner prior to sexual activity as well, right? It's information gathering. It's you getting the info that you need, what are they into, you telling your partner what you're into, and kind of sharing in that moment in a way that feels a little more safer than doing that in public, right? Or doing that face to face. It helps with the selection process, okay? If you know that you are engaging with someone who is not on the same wavelength you are, or is not on the same type of time that you are, being able to have these conversations over the phone can help with your either elimination or acceptance process. So it's helping you choose. And it increases sexual tension, which is amazing for brand new relationships and for long distance relationships. So if you have a partner that has to work away frequently, your partner's a flight attendant or a CEO of some big company and they have to travel and do all these things, it's a great way to keep that communication open and leave that sexual energy to fester until you two can get back together, right? So you're feeding that forthcoming sexual experience by talking about it and getting a little dirty and getting a little spicy before you can actually engage. So sexting is actually important. I know many people may not feel that way or may have a differing opinion about the validity of sexting, but as a sex educator, it's our job to make sure that every way that you can communicate can be done safely, okay? And so pretending like people aren't doing it is not going to help the situation, right? I want you to sext, but I want you to do it in a manner that feels authentic to you and that is also safe, right? Because there are repercussions for doing it in a manner that is not safe or a manner that does not feel like you're being true to yourself. And you can end up in a situation that you don't necessarily want to be in, right? So rules of engagement. What do you need to know to be able to successfully send a dirty text or successfully engage in a kinky conversation? What do we do? And there are rules of engagement. I don't care what anybody told you. I don't care what the people saying. There's absolutely a way that this needs to be done. Okay? So firstly, you are going to refrain from sexting folk you have not kept in contact with. Okay? You cannot text someone that you ghosted 6 months ago and send them a picture of your thigh meat and be like, so what's up? Because you're going to get cussed out. You're not leaving that communication open. You are attempting to use someone, and you've made it very clear they're not important to you unless you're trying to get something out of them. So if you are in the mood to sext, you need to do that with someone that you've built a relationship and kept in contact with. Okay, you can't just pick a number out of your dating profile or just go back into the archives and text your baby mama, because you're gonna get cussed out, and that is not gonna help your cause. Okay, we're supposed to be making sure that this is successful, and it can't be successful if you're texting literal strangers. Okay, so rebuild the relationship. If this is someone that you want to engage in that with, you need to rebuild the relationship so that you can have that as an option. Ask them about their day. How's the kids doing? Take them out to eat, stuff like that. Pay for their haircut, whatever it takes, to be able to show that, I'm not just trying to use you. Okay. Even though there are cases when some people do just want that. Okay. But that should be something that should be discussed in advance. It should not be something that is popped up on someone. Okay. Follow the natural path of the conversation. What do I mean by that? You do not respond with, hey, how you doing? With, let me see them titties. Okay? That's not how you do this. Okay? You have to follow the natural path of the conversation, which if that's where you want to lead to, you absolutely can, but you need to lead the conversation there. You do not need to be coming out, and an opening is not, I'm about to take a shower, and then you say, without me, hey, okay? That's not the opening. Okay? Where you want to do, if somebody says that, okay, well, I'm about to take a shower. Ooh, okay, what kind of body wash do you use? I bet you smell delicious. What is your nighttime process? Because people's nighttime processes are extensive. Like after you shower, what else do you do? Do you do your face routine? What kind of products do you use? And kind of just lead into it. Do you like hot showers? Are we talking about cold showers? Are you a bath or a shower type of girl or boy? Do you prefer to take a shower or a bath after a long day? There's ways that you can lead that conversation to where you're trying to go that doesn't necessarily put you at that position. And what happens if you lead that conversation in that place, it makes the person feel more comfortable with sharing that information with you. And they may give you a hint that lets you know that that's what they're going for, or that's the direction they're trying to move in. Because when you're sexting people, it doesn't always mean they don't want to be sexting you, right? If you're making and building relationships, those people kind of want to be on the phone with you. They want to talk to you. And even to talk a little bit dirty, like that's not above anyone, right? Everyone loves a little dirty message, loves a little spunk added into that conversation. But it needs to be done in a way that feels authentic. So you need to follow the natural path of the conversation, even if that means you kind of leading the conversation to that. That's still okay too, because relationships have dynamics, and one person is usually the aggressor and the other person is usually receptive to that aggression, right? And I say aggression not in a physical type of way, but just receptive to the conversation or receptive to that. So it's not you shouldn't always feel uncomfortable having to start it, but you should feel those little butterflies that come with, having a kinky conversation. Texting has only existed since I was an adult. Like, as a child, we weren't texting anyone. You were either on that phone late at night, or, talking on the phone, or you were seeing each other in person. So the concept of sexting is still relatively new, 24, 25 years. How old is texting in general? Let's look it up. I know it had to be like 2003. Oh, it says December, the first SMS text message was sent on December 3rd, 1992 by engineer Neil Papworth. So 1992. I remember getting my first cell phone. I was in college, and I probably was behind, honestly, because I had to pay for it myself. But I don't remember having that many people have cell phones when I had cell phones. But again, at the time, you only could talk, text messages was like 10 cents a piece to send. When they first started, it was like 10 cents a piece, and minutes during the day. It cost to talk on the cell phone during the day. And, it was free after 9. It went free after 9 at first. Free nights and weekends. I worked in my first job after I got out of college. I worked at Sprint. So it was free after 9. And then they went to free after 7 and ate them up. Okay? Free nights and weekends used to be, you had a plan if you had free nights and weekends, and free text messaging, because again, text used to cost. So you're only seeing the evolution of a form of communication in its very earliest forms, right? So it's still relatively new. I'm not upset that people don't know how to properly sext, because again, like, how would you know, right? How would you know? So make sure you're just following the natural path of those conversations and not, jumping straight into it, trying to get to the business, because, you're going to mess it up. Don't send your meat or potatoes to anyone who hasn't seen it in person at least twice. Okay? So I say this as a standard practice, but there are some cases when you will step outside of that, right? So this is for people who are in relationships or who are trying to build relationships. You don't want to send your meat to someone that you don't know, right? Or someone you're getting to know. That's not what this is. You want to make sure that if you are sending it, that you're sending it to someone that you trust and that you have actually seen with your eyes. Now, what are the cases where that doesn't matter, right? If y'all are just hooking up and you like, hey, send it to me, I'm trying to see, absolutely fine, right? That you're sending that on request, okay? It is not something that you drop off without a request, okay? At least not for penises. I believe that men or people who are interested in vulvas probably don't have as strict a rule, okay? You could probably send your meat and potatoes to a man, and it won't have as much of an effect as it does when a person with a penis sends their meat over the SMS. Okay, so there's always a little leeway in that, but as a rule, just don't send it to someone who hasn't at least seen it, right? And I don't feel like one time is good enough. Like, if you hook up once and then you're like, hey, I'm trying to hook up again, and you send your meat, like, don't do that, right? You just, hey, I'm trying to come through, and then after you've built a relationship and a rapport with this person, then okay, that's something you can do. But I do not think that you should be sending your meat unprovoked at all to anyone. Put it up, okay? Put it up. And the thing is that if people want to see it, they'll ask you for it. You don't have to throw it in there. Like, if people want to know, they want to see it, they will tell you. Here's another little secret that you may not know. most people with satisfactory phalluses usually don't send their meat. They want you to see it. They want you to see in person what it is, right? This is just what I found as someone who has received hundreds of pictures of people's meat. That's just a part of my job. I love it. But I've seen a lot of meat in my time. And usually, if they're trying to convince you that it's worth it, they will send you the meat unprovoked, right? But the guys who know that they got it, they want you to see it in person. They want to be there when they drop. They want you to be there when they drop their draws, and you get first glimpse of it. I'm just saying. I'm just telling you, right? And so, sending your meat to someone that you don't know can be a sign of you not being very confident. It could show that, you maybe are just trying to see if it's cool, or you're not necessarily confident in your game, your sexual game, and you don't want them to be surprised. Different things like that, right? So just keep your meat to yourself unless it's asked for, or unless it's already been agreed upon that this is okay. Okay, don't just send your stuff to random people's phones. And people change phone numbers and stuff all the time. You drop in your meat in somebody's phone, you can end up on somebody's grandma's cell phone. All of your labius majora, minora, just on somebody's grandma's front screen. Okay, so just make sure that it's already been agreed, it's already been discussed, and that this is okay. Do not invite anyone to your place until you are acquainted. Okay, so this is not necessarily a part of sexting, but again, it is a part of the ongoing goal of sexting is to, eventually be able to back up what you've been talking, right? Not all the time, because some people are just fine with only sexting, right? Some people just get off on being able to have the conversation, but also be alone and not have the pressure of performance and all those different things. So I'm not talking to you if you're one of those people. But if you are sexting, you just met someone and you are, getting to know them, do not send them people your address. Okay? Do not. I also just don't think it's if you want to hook up with somebody, get a room. Y'all can go in half on it. Rooms are like $100 and something. You put in 50, I put in 50. Neither one of you are safe by putting, your address, giving your address to the other person. And I know that men don't necessarily take this into account, but I want to point out that sometimes men go on these apps and they create profiles with women's pictures and all those types of things to scam you and rob you, okay? So you might think that you under, sharing your meat and your address with some cute girl from Miami, and, Roger from Philadelphia is going to pull up in a ski mask and some black Air Forces, okay? So you do not send them people your information. You never meet at each other's house. I know that that's, it's safe and it's financially low risk, but it is high risk for both of you, because you never know what people are on, right? And some of those are real live women who are setting those guys up for that type of interaction. So just don't invite anyone to your place or let them know where you live until you know them, until you spend enough time with them, you've gone out with them, you've been able to be in their presence, you see how they handle certain things, because you might end up bopped over the head and put in a deep freezer, okay? And that's not what we want. So just be safe, get a room, meet somewhere else, meet at the lake in the car at night or something, but just don't be so quick to give people your address and for people to pop up, right? Because you never know. Jeffrey Dahmer was inviting them people back to his house and they found them heads in the refrigerator, okay? So This is one thing that really gets me, because I always see the conversations about, if someone doesn't have the money and for a first date they want you to come to their house, would you be cool with that? You should absolutely never, ever, ever be cool with that. I don't care if you are a male or female, because you don't know. And people are struggling right now. And when people struggle, scamming is on the rise, okay? Because most people don't go down without a fight. People who are scammers, I know that everybody's like, these are terrible people and blah, blah, blah. The scammers are people who have seen that other people are able to scam, and they're like, why can't I do that too? And so, a lot of times people can scam 401ks, they can take your life savings, they can do all that. But on a smaller level, you could just rob somebody and take their TV and, whatever. So don't set yourself up for that. Make sure that you are not giving out any of your personal information, your address, the place where you work, any of those types of things, because you don't know what people are on. No face, no case, okay? If you send your nibbles to somebody, nobody will ever be able to say it's your nibbles unless your face or any other identifying information is in that. Okay, so you can still send the picture. You just need to zoom in. Okay, zoom in so that none of your business is showing, that if it does come out, that you can say, I have no idea who that is. I don't know whose stuff that is. I don't know what you're talking about, right? And that also gives you the anonymity of being able to send. I honestly feel like people love their own bodies. They love to send their own photos. Again, over the years, I've had hundreds and hundreds, it's probably thousands at this point, of people's nudes, right? And to be able to be a safe space for that, I love that. That's not why I ask people to take them, though. I ask people to take them so they can become acquainted with their bodies. They can become comfortable with seeing themselves as a sexual being. And taking those photos just makes you feel empowered. It makes you feel sexy. That's why those boudoir photos are so popular, because people want to feel sexy. They want to feel like this body can be a sexual vessel. So I'm not knocking that at all. And even if it means pulling out your meat and putting it next to a remote control, I'm fine with that too. Just make sure the remote control don't have your name on it or, anything like that. Personally, I like a remote control and a big toe in the background. Go ahead and give me the full suite. I like it all, right? But again, you want to make sure that you are not including any identifying information, so that if it does come out, you can just deny it. I don't know whose butthole that is. What do you mean? It's just a butthole. You can just pick me and you just don't tell people this is my butthole. It's clearly your butthole. Nobody else has to know that but you. So just make, you're making the best decisions to ensure that the way that you're trying to play is going to keep you, available for the future. You don't want to be, because revenge porn is a really big thing right now. And sometimes people are taking your images and making videos that you're not even making. Like, they're videos that have nothing to do with what you have going on, or, they're just, people can make AI photos of you doing all kind of things. I would definitely like to discourage against that. There are plenty of people right now who online whining because Meg Thee Stallion shut all that shit down. And shout out to my niece, because you don't have to play with these people, honey. You do not, and I'm glad that you were standing on the biggest of business. I mean, big business, okay? And get in them pockets. So if you do that, if you are one of those people who is known to share nudes and to send them to other people and do all of that, many states have laws right now against revenge porn, and you can be sued and possibly jailed for doing it. So don't use your connections and your resources for that. Make sure that you are also not making it easy for someone to blackmail you or anything like that. No face, no case, right? And then finally, remember that the act of sexting is supposed to be fun, right? It's supposed to be flirty. It's supposed to give you butterflies. You're supposed to be, giggling in your work clothes, while someone's talking about playing with your butt or playing with your nipples or whatever. It's supposed to do that. And what that does is it injects sexual energy into your relationship. It creates anticipation. It creates that anxiousness of wanting to see your partner, and I can't wait to, see you so you can back up all the shit that you've been talking and blah, blah, blah. And so all of those kinds of conversations bring you both closer together. They bring intimacy back into those relationships, and they can help make your sexual experiences better. They can grow your sexual experiences. They can help you to learn and expand and to be present for each other, and to inject care, which care is specifics that you are interested in. Inject that into your relationship. So don't think of it as this terrible thing, and don't think that that's something that only young adults do or whatever. Like, no, your old ass can get on that phone and text Frank or text Gertrude and tell her, like, girl, them beans you had last night made me want to do something to you, and go build the conversation from there. So use there are plenty of different ways to engage in sexual activity that are low risk. Sexting is one of those ways that is no chance for pregnancy, no chance for sexually transmitted infections, no chance for violence or anything like that. You really are it's a low risk way to engage in sexual activity with another person that can still be very fun. So if you are not necessarily a texter, make sure that you're giving sexting a try. You can do it with your husband while he's at work. You can send it to your wife while she's in a meeting, and she can see it when she gets out. It's just supposed to be something that you're doing to, tell you, I'm thinking about you naked. I'm thinking about you with your shirt off. So you have the opportunity to do something magical, just with a very low risk activity. It's also can be a form of foreplay. Before you get home, you just start before you even get to the house. Hey, I've been thinking about you all day. I can't wait till you get home. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to be waiting on you when you get there. Just kind of setting it up. And if your partner is open to that, they can give you a little bit of banter back to help grow it, and so on and so forth. You can send voice messages, all of those types of things. And so the ways that we can communicate and that we can build that sexual energy really does depend on how far we want to go. Like, what all do you want to do? What would you be open to, right? So it really gives you the opportunity to add another tool to your arsenal to be able to feed your sexuality and feed the sexual energy between you and your partner. Okay? So I hope we got some good tips, that we're not out here being reckless. Just sending the meat all willy-nilly. There needs to be a rhyme and reason. There's a pathway. There's a natural flow of conversation, and there's an expectation for you to continue it. Okay? All right. So let's talk about, before we move on, we only have a few more days of our, let's hide that. Few more days until October 1st, which is going to be Halloween. If you are in the area, we have we're going to be having a Halloween event. We'll talk about that in a second. But we are going to be we have entered the Patreon era. And so on Patreon, we have we're able to talk a little bit more in depth about some of the things that I cannot discuss here. I'm actually going to be loading a role play on there today. I'm going to start doing a role play a week, so that And a role play is another external tool that you can use to, spice up the bedroom. But my role plays are very detailed. It tells you all the tools you need, what you can do to make your scene pop, the rules that you need to have, all that stuff. Because role play is not as easy as people think it is, right? It's not just go in there and pretend that y'all are strangers and have lunch. Sometimes, a role play needs a step by step of, do this, do this, do that, do this. And to help people safely navigate some of those, more intense scenes, right? And so an example of an intense scene is going to be a cop and an inmate, right? Some people may have very big feelings surrounded by that. People have histories of, police brutality and things like that. And so sometimes you need to know how to navigate those spaces. People have traumas that come along, sexual abuse and other types of things that you have to be mindful of when you're going into those spaces to make sure that you're making the best scene. So if you join my Patreon up until October 1st, you will pay $3 a month, okay? And that is going to grandfather you into our Patreon package. And then, of course, after October 1st, you're going to be moved up a tier. And then that $3 tier is just going to be for a support basis if you just, want to support sexual health resources for adults. But the people who are already in will help me choose shows in the future. You will receive special invites to events and get first dibs on my book releases and all that good stuff. So lock in if you can as patreon.com/Coach Katasha, CHSE, Certified Holistic Sex Educator. And come on in. We're gonna talk about we get down. So Patreon allows me to go a little bit more in depth about some of the things, and my goal is to give you all of the information. I don't want to give you a piece of the information, right? And so sometimes many of these social media platforms have built-in moderators already in place. And so some of the words that I use, my TikTok is blocked right now. Blocked right now. But it doesn't allow me to really get in there like you want me to get in there. So, but Patreon does. So you can join us. You won't regret it. Okay? So let's talk about the rest of the week. What do we have for the schedule for the rest of this week? Our weekly schedule lets you know what we have coming up in case there's any classes that you want to make sure that you don't miss, or something that you are specifically interested in, just to make sure that you are not, that you don't miss that class. So tomorrow is Ask Coach Katasha, which is the reason I'm blocked on TikTok right now. Ask Coach Katasha is a live Q&A with a sexual health expert. So you come in, you can ask me whatever questions you have. I will be happy to answer them online. If you on live, if you don't like people in your business, which I completely understand, you can send those questions to me at expressionofrepression@gmail.com in advance, and I will bring those questions back to the chat on Wednesday, and we will answer them live, but they won't be attached to your handle, right? And I get it, people have a lot of different views about, and a lot of different questions about things that you don't necessarily want to be traced back to you. I understand that. I'll be happy to answer your question with no judgment, just whatever we need, right? So that's going to be tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So be prepared for that, okay? On Thursday is Sex Tech Thursday, where we talk about new technologies in sexual health. And we're going to be talking about artificial womb technology on Sex Tech Thursday. So if you are interested in technology and the future of technology, and also with what's going on in reproductive health, artificial womb technology is going to be right there at the top, right? They just had a doctor who was able to take a baby out, do something to the spleen or to the brain, and then put the baby back, and the mother was able to carry the baby to full term. So they've been able to reproduce that outside of the body as well, which is going to be great because there are plenty of moms who are are not able to carry their child to full term because of different conditions with their body, and this helps. So that'll be Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then on Friday is Late Night with Coach Katasha. Okay, 9 p.m. We'll be back here to be messy. Okay, that's our opportunity to be messy and talk about what's going on in the sexual world. What are the celebrities doing? What's moving and shaking in sexuality right now? Who's being outed? All kinds of stuff, right? So make sure that you are tuned in. You can type in Coach Katasha in any of your social media search bars, and I should pop up. You can follow me for live updates and announcements. Just make sure you locked in. We have a new schedule every week that'll tell you exactly what we're going to be talking about for the week, so that you can save it on your calendar if you need to. I am looking forward to the rest of the week because we do have some fun stuff coming up. I cannot wait till Friday because I do have some mess that I want to bring up, and I'm not normally a messy person. I don't care enough about what other people have going on, but I do understand the importance of keeping up with what's going on in the news and what the people are talking about, and so that's gonna be it's gonna be the only opportunity is on Fridays to come in and be messy. So show up if you want to. Bring your little drink, bring your toys, bring whatever. And we just hang out and chat, and it's just kind of like a check-in for me and you as well. A lot of people have stuff going on right now, big feelings around reproductive health and women's rights and all that stuff, and so people are struggling. That is also a time for you to come in. We can chat about it, and just kind of, if you need to get it off your chest, you can come dump it on your chest, dump it off your chest here, and I'll be happy to be that outlet for you. Okay? All right, let me put my link tree in here so you can find me on any of my socials if you need to. You can also send those questions to any of my social media platforms. I can check in my requests or whatever, and I will be able to answer whatever kind of questions that you may have. Okay? All right. Now let me check my chat, make sure I didn't leave anything. I didn't realize people are always like, chat. I saw the girl being like, chat, what we doing, chat? Chat, can I breathe? Can I breathe, chat? I didn't know that was a thing. Ain't he old? I'm gonna be honest with you. Ain't he old? I don't be knowing what's going on, but I be tickled. When y'all be going in on each other. So I definitely appreciate you showing up. I appreciate all the people who send their questions to the email, because that's where I get most of my questions from. And I get that people are shy, and sex is a taboo topic, so it's not like that is not a warranted response. But I appreciate you for participating and for trusting me to answer your questions. And I will be back here tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, ready to answer any of your sexual health questions. All right? I will